Hi everybody and welcome to the channel. I hope you're well and dandy out there in Beatles land, YouTubers, anybody on the internet or interweb, and anybody that's just come across this channel. Thank you very much. You're more than welcome. This is just going to be my review on some of the things that have been released in 2024 that are either Beatles or Beatles related, i.e. Beatles records, albums, films, stuff like that, or solo, John, Paul, George and Ringo. I haven't got everything that came out, and I'm only going to review the things that I have got. I'm not going to review things that I haven't got, if that makes sense. So if you're sitting comfortably, we'll get on with the show. So the first thing is Paul McCartney and Wings, One Hand Clapping. This is a double LP, and this is the one where you got the EP with it, he says. So you got this, which is it the Backyard Tapes or something it's known as. So this is basically Paul and Wings rehearsing some new songs, rehearsing some old songs. I think it was, well, I know it was filmed. So this is actually a 40th anniversary because it was actually recorded in 1974. There's a bit of criticism over this cover when it came out. Yeah, it's not the most appealing cover ever on a record, is it? But the contents are what we're bothered about. So you've got One Hand Clapping, Jet, Solly, Sea Moon, Little Woman Love, Maybe I'm Amazed, My Love, Side 2, Bluebird, Let's Love, All of You, I'll Give You a Ring, Band on the Run, Live and Let Die, 1985, Babyface, and it is Babyface, Babyface. Side 3 is Let Me Roll It, Blue Moon of Kentucky, Power Cut, Love My Baby, Let It Be, Long and Winding Road. Side 4 is Junior's Farm, Sally G, Tomorrow, Go Now, Wildlife and High High High. Recorded live at Abbey Road Studios in London, 1974. This is something that every Paul McCartney fan, every Wings fan, every Beatles fan to a certain extent has wanted. We've known about these songs for years, and there was a bootleg that came out a few years ago, so it's nice to have the official album after all this time. A few months after this was released, there was a release of the film in cinemas. Unfortunately, I was meant to go with Terry, my mate Terry Mann, but I couldn't go because of work commitments. But everybody that's seen it says it is really, really good, and it has been sort of like remastered to make it a bit more appropriate for today. Again, that up until a few months ago, you could see that on YouTube anyway, most of that. But yeah, this is something that is worth having in your collection. I don't know if it was a limited edition or not. I don't know. I think the one with the single in it is. If I was going to rank this out of 10, I'd give it a strong 9.5. Just excuse me, I'm going to have to go down there and put the records over there if that's okay. I'm having to do it like this because as I'm recording this is Christmas Eve, by the way, and it is only 1 o'clock in the afternoon. It's dark. I've got a light there, a light there, a light there, and a light at the back of me. Then for Record Store Day, we got quite a few things to do with the Beatles or the ex-Beatles. We got these two: Wonderwall Music by George Harrison and Electronic Sounds by George Harrison. Now, in all fairness to the George Harrison estate, they've done something quite good here because they've given you an album, but they've done a slight twist on it because they've done it on these super duper Trupo things or whatever they're called. So if you look at that as it's going round, it actually looks like it's all moving. Probably not going to get the effect that good on there. You can download an app and watch your record going while it is moving. I didn't bother doing that, to be honest. I just stood over it and watched it when first couple of times I played it. It is a very, very nice sounding album, this one. Wonderwall music. Again, it's one I've always loved. I've got a few copies of the Wonderwall album. I've got an original UK copy, I've got an American copy, and I think I've got a German copy. I've got a reissue copy out of the George Harrison box set from a few years ago, which is down there, and now I've got this one. This does sound okay. Honestly, it does sound okay. I know a lot of people say, "Well, I'm not buying it." It's a very, very underrated album in its own right, that, and it is well worth what I paid for it, which I think was about £28 off the top of my head. Yeah, I did get this off the internet though. I didn't go to the shop to buy it. I got it the week after, and from what I can make out, it actually cost me less buying it off the internet than if I'd have gone to the shop to buy it. Then there's this one. This one is slightly different. This is electronic sounds. This is the album that every Beatles fan, George Harrison fan, probably a member of the VC, anybody that ever collects records hates. Including me to a certain extent, although I've got quite a few copies of it. I always wanted an original copy. I got a reissue a few years ago, and I've got an American version of this as well. This is the same. It is on these super deluxe for picture disc things. That one I've played quite a few times. I've played that about 5 or 6 times. That one I haven't played. I did put it on my turntable and I just watched it go around, so I can't really tell you what that sounds like. I've got to take my hat off to the George Harrison camp, because they've done something slightly different to what some other people have been doing, where they give you albums that are in the catalogue, but they've done slightly different, like on picture discs or the So Troop or whatever you call it. So Troop. So yeah, that one I would give a 9 out of 10. This one, it might sound a bit harsh. I would give it a 6.5 out of 10. I'm not saying anything against it, it's just you probably never play it. I think I've played my reissue one twice, and I've only ever played it twice. I played it once and then I played it again a few weeks later just to see if it was actually as bad as I thought it was. This one though is a different kettle of fish altogether. If you've never heard this album, Wonderwall Music by George Harrison, and you've got a music streaming device, not mentioning names, you just listen to Wonderwall and things like that. It is, people say it's like an Indian album. There is Indian influence on it, but then there's songs like Singing Om, which is just people going om, to quite a psychedelic background. It was actually the soundtrack to a very, very obscure 60s film. Yeah, so I'm still glad I've got both of them though, to be honest. Also for Record Store Day, we've got Ringo Star, Crooked Boy, and I can't remember if this is on black vinyl or coloured vinyl. Just have a quick look. I think it's black, isn't it? No, it's not. Boy. Look at this splattered vinyl. Look at that. That's side 2 because it says Star on it, and side 1 says Ringo. Out of the sort of EPs that Ringo's been releasing in the past few years, I've only got this one and one other, which are the 2 latest ones, sort of thing. I think this is actually quite good. I wouldn't say it's the best thing Ringo's ever done, but I would say it is the best thing he's done in the last few years. You get 4 songs on it. Excuse me. Side 1 is February Sky. That's a fantastic song. Then you've got Adelaine. Again, good song. Gonna Need Somebody. Gonna Need Someone. And Crooked Boy. And it was produced by Linda Perry, who used to be in the 4 Non-Blondes, if I remember rightly. That I would give a strong 9 out of 10. It's well worth having. Although I seem to think I think those 2 George Harrison ones were about £28 each. This one was something like £36. Whether it's because it's on that splattered vinyl or not, I don't know. Again, it's okay, but you're only paying for 4 songs instead of a full album. But it is 4 decent songs from Ringo. I would have said give that 9. They say 9. Then I got this one, John Lennon Mind Games EP. This is the glow in the dark one. So you get Mind Games Ultimate Mix, I'm the Greatest Ultimate Mix, featuring George Harrison, Ringo Starr, and Klaus Voormann. Then you got Asame, I'm Sorry, Ultimate Mix, and You Are Here, Outtake, Take 5. This was, I think, about £30 off the top of my head. Brilliant. And it is, you know, I just found something I thought I'd lost. And it is on, it looks like it is white, but it's actually a day glowy, orangey greeny colour, this. And the sound quality on this is absolutely fantastic. When I played this, the first time I ever played it, it blew my socks off, as the Beatles used to say. It's always hard to actually describe what a record sounds like, because everybody's ears are different and everybody's hi-fi systems are different. Actually, that was a bit more than I thought it was. That was £50. £50. But yeah, it does sound good. And when I actually heard this, bearing in mind I've always loved the Mind Games album anyway, it made me more determined to get the remixed album. Again, I'll give that 9.5 out of 10. The only reason it didn't get a 10 out of 10 is because I've just seen how much I paid for it. And it wasn't cheap, folks. Then we've got the Mind Games Ultimate Mixes double LP. So you get the first LP is the original Mind Games album remixed, and the second LP is alternative versions and demos. This came out in a lot of different forms. You could pay £1,350, was it, for a cube? Now, I would not have gone out and paid that much for it. Honestly, I can look at that as a piece of art, but at the end of the day, half the stuff in it you're not going to use. And I think a lot of people that did buy it and did reviews on it didn't think that much of it. Once they took it all to bits and everything, you're saying you're probably better for this. Now, I got this, the double LP, one, because I didn't want to pay all that money. But the main reason was because I've got the Plastic Ono band and Imagine on these ultimate double LPs, ultimate mix things. This wasn't that much. I think this was around £35 off the top of my head. The remixed album sounds absolutely fantastic. No problems with that whatsoever. You also get a poster with this, by the way, which I'm not going to bother getting out. And it's completely remixed from the original multi-tracks. Second album is the outtakes, and again, some of them are slightly better than others. I did do a full review of this. That gets a 10 out of 10. Honestly, that does get a 10 out of 10. But like I said, I did always love Mind Games. A lot of people, before this LP was announced as being remixed, going to be like a remixed version coming out, excuse me, and the next album we're going to look at, George Harrison's Living in the Material World, a lot of fans would have said Mind Games and Living in the Material World were probably their least favourite solo Beatles albums, or they'd be at the bottom of the rankings, not at the top. I've always loved Mind Games. I think it's John probably bearing his soul out, but not as much as on Plastic Ono Band. But you could tell he was like upset at certain things, but then he was happy and looking forward to the future and things like that. Fantastic album. Really is a fantastic album. Then we've got this one. Ta-da! George Harrison, Living in the Material World. Now, when this was announced as being released as a box set and everything else, I actually ordered the box set. So in the box set, you got 2 vinyls or 2 LPs, you got 2 CDs, you got a single, and you got 2 books. I paid for it. 3 days after it had been released, I did get a message from the people I bought it off saying that they cocked the order up and they hadn't got it. I did get a full refund, but apparently that was only released 5,000 copies worldwide, apparently. So then Sue found this. Now, in one way, this is going to sound daft, and I'm not just saying it because I've got this and not the other one, but I think this is probably slightly better value for money, although I am still looking for the box set. So if I ever get the box set, you know, The only thing you don't get with this is Sunshine Life for Me, Sail Away Raymond, the limited edition single, and you don't get the two sort of like books, and you don't get the two CDs, but you do get a slipcase and you do get a proper LP cover. The first album is a remixed version of Living in a Material World, and it is a really, really good remix. I've heard tambourines and bongos and solo acoustic guitars and stuff on some of the songs on there that I never knew were there. On some of them, it was the saxophones were dead, sort of like in your face, and they've been lowered into the mix on some of them. The second album, which is the acoustic versions and demo takes and things like that, is absolutely fantastic. Again, that gets a 10 out of 10 for me. If you've never heard this album or the John Lennon Mind Games one, try streaming it if you're not sure, but make sure it is these remixed versions, and you might be pleasantly surprised, to be honest. Then we've got A Hard Day's Night. Again, I met up with Terry, my old mate Terry Man, and we actually went and was waiting at HMV when this was released. And this was quite expensive. I think this was £42, something like that. Did we need this? Well, it is. I mean, 2024 is the 60th anniversary of this and the 60th anniversary of Beatles for Sale. And we didn't actually think we was going to get any Beatles LPs this year, did we, at one point? I know there's something released for Black Friday and things like that, and something that I've got to show you yet. This is on lovely white vinyl, and it's a stereo pressing. Fantastic, look at that. The only drawback with this is, if there is a drawback, it is just although it's on a white vinyl, from what I can make out, it is just a straightforward pressing from the 2019 box set. I could be wrong, or the 2019 pressing. Is it supposed to be a direct analog master or something? Sounds brilliant to me. On my equipment, it sounds brilliant. Very, very happy to get it. It is nice that they've done something different, and it is a true 50th anniversary, isn't it, if you think about it? I know COVID's cocked a lot of things up for releases, but yeah, that gets a 9.5 out of 10 for me. It would have been a 10 out of 10 had it had some like a little pamphlet with it, or it wouldn't have been quite expensive. But having said that, if I would have shopped around, I probably could have got this for less than what I did, but I did get it on the day of release, and apparently this is a limited edition, but they don't tell you how many it's limited to. Right, now, as I said at the beginning of the video, I'm only reviewing things that I've actually bought, physically got, or seen. If I've watched some of the films, there's been lots of films come out. Like I said, One Hand Clapping came out and had a theatre released into it. We've had Midas Man, we've had the Beatles 64 documentary. Now, them last two have got mixed reviews. The Beatles 64, I have watched some of it, but I haven't watched all of it. The bits that I've seen are okay. That's all I'll say on that. I haven't seen the whole thing, so I don't really want to say too much about it. There was a record store day of I Saw Her Standing There. I haven't got it, so I'm not going to review it. Been loads of books, though, haven't there, this year? Been loads of books on the Beatles. So what did I get? I got this one. Extended Play in the UK. Complete overview of the Beatles EPs manufactured in the UK. And this is by a chap called Richard Noller. This is his second volume. His first volume was made in the UK. The complete singles, which is a green cover. This is a blue cover. Wasn't cheap there. This was quite expensive, and I was lucky enough to get the last ever copy. So you can't go out and buy this now. Not brand new. You might be able to get a second hand off internet selling sites in a few years. And it does show you every EP that was ever released in the UK. I was talking to Richard, and he is working on a follow-up book of the British Beatles LPs, which he hopes to have ready for publication at the end of 2025 or maybe the start of 2026, if I remember that rightly. And when I bought this, I also bought a load of singles off him that was featured in the first book. So check the video out for this and the video for the singles that I got off him as well. Well worth having, especially if you live in the UK, because if you buy an EP, you can look in this and it will tell you exactly when it was made by looking at the matrix numbers and the stamp out and the dead wax and all that lot. Really, really nice, informative book. 10 out of 10 for that. Honestly, 10 out of 10. And 10 out of 10 for the one, but we're not doing that. Finally, the most controversial release of 2024 in a lot of ways. It was announced a couple of months ago that Capitol, or Universal Music, was going to release a box set to celebrate the 60th anniversary of the Beatles' first trip to America. Nothing wrong with that, is there? Because it is the 50th anniversary, 2024. Originally, it was very, very sketchy. It was just meant to be from Meet the Beatles to Beatles 65. Then they said, no, it's going to be Meet the Beatles up to the early Beatles. All right. They didn't say whether it's going to be in mono or in stereo. They didn't say whether it's going to be a box set or whether there's going to be individual. Then it came out a couple of days later. It was going to be all monos. To me, yeah, great. Got no problem with that whatsoever. A lot of people say, why do we need them in mono? But they're the same people that want the Beatles in mono white box set. It's each their own, isn't it? I've always championed the American albums. I think they've got the place in the Beatles catalogue and the Beatles history, you know, just as much in some cases as the British ones. If you lived in America, this is how you listened to the Beatles originally, wanted with these albums. Meet the Beatles, Beatles' second album, A Hard Day's Night, Beatles 65, The Beatles Story, and then the early Beatles, which shouldn't really be in here because that was released in 65. Beatles 65 is basically a version of the Beatles for sale. A lot of people say, but the American albums are just a rip-off of the British albums. You know, out of 2 British albums, they'd met 3 or 4 American albums. Yeah, they would, but if that's how you're brought up, that's how you know them albums, isn't it? The other thing is, people were saying, well, why buy that if you bought this a few years ago? At first, I was a bit sceptical about this box set, and I did think I'd just buy certain albums. This box set, by the way, you get every American Beatles album in this. So you get from Meet the Beatles up to Hey Jude. You don't get Introducing the Beatles. You don't get Sgt. Pepper or Magical Mystery Tour or The White Album or Abbey Road or Let It Be. It is the American albums. Now, people say, yeah, but we've got all the mixes on here. You haven't. Now, until this new box set was released, I didn't realise, bear in mind, I've had this for a few years, the mixes on here, although they're in the order of the American albums, are actually the UK mixes. Still worth having, though, but be careful because there's some counterfeits of this about. That's not a counterfeit, by the way. Yeah, so I went on the HMV site and I thought, well, because I didn't get the George Harrison box set, I'll look at getting the individual albums. So I looked at them and there was all about $39.99. And I'm thinking, well, how much is the box set then? Looked on the box set, then this thing came up, said I got a coupon because I was a regular customer and I could get X amount off it or X percent off it. So I pressed it to see how much it would be, and I think I paid, off the top of my head, £180 for this. In America, I think the thing in America was if you wanted the box set, you're paying, was it $130 more, $150 more for the box set and the exclusive LP that you can't buy individually, which is the Beatles Story. Which, although it's okay to listen to, if you've never listened to it, it's not something you can listen to every day. So I'm quite happy with that. I love it. I've heard people moan saying their records jump, they sound absolutely crap. None of mine, all mine sound fantastic. Like I said, my equipment and to my aging ears, they sound okay. They sound really, really nice. It's nice to have some prestige copies of albums that I've had for years and years and years. And if I would have gone into HMV, my local HMV, and bought all the 6 albums that you can buy individually, it would have cost me more than buying this box set. So yeah, put that back up there so it's out of the way. Yeah, so that is what's happened in 2024. But no, it's not, because was it last night or the night before, Paul has announced that he is definitely going to be releasing a new album next year, 2025. Ringo is releasing his new country and western album in January. We're not quite sure if we're going to get anything from George Harrison camp, or we're going to get a remastered version of Dark Horse. I don't know. It'd be nice, but I know they're working on the concert for Bangladesh, aren't they, as well? So I think that might be the release we get from them. Are we going to get anything from John? I don't know. It'd be nice to get a remastered Walls and Bridges, wouldn't it? Or even a little box set. Are we going to get the Rubber Soul box set? Now, the Rubber Soul box set is a bit strange because Apple and Universal Music and the Beatles have never actually said that they was ever going to do a Rubber Soul box set. I think when they started doing the box sets, I think everybody just thought eventually, well, they're going to do the Revolver one next because you've done Rubber Soul because you've just done Revolver. If we get it, folks, don't we? That's the best way to look at that. If we get it, we get it. So it just leaves me to wish you all a very, very Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year. Obviously, you might be watching this 6 months down the line, so that ain't going to make any difference, is it? Excuse me. Whatever you're doing, please stay safe. I hope you have a fantastic day tomorrow, or the day after, or yesterday, depending on whenever you're watching this video. I hope that's been informative for you and a bit of entertainment. Like I say, I've only reviewed things that I've actually got. Oh, by the way, that Beatles in mono box set would also get a 10 out of 10 for me. Obviously, if I lived in America and I'd to pay all that extra money for that, then it probably wouldn't. That's just me being honest. I think for what I paid for it, I think it was a bargain. And like I say, it's really, really nice to have some lovely sounding American albums at last. So that's going to be it. Thank you to everyone that is supporting the channel, has been leaving me likes, subscribing, leaving me comments. You know, you all mean the world to me, and may it continue that way. There's going to be plenty more content coming in the new year. I might do a video on Boxing Day, depending on what I get for Christmas. I do know there's a few things. So until then, peace, love and happiness to all. Remember, you are the Beatle Dave. Without you, this channel wouldn't really exist. And I love you all. And happy Christmas.